It's March Madness here on Ref the District. Our 2-3 matchup. You have Drake Maye versus JJ McCarthy. Who is going to come out top for the Washington Commanders? Let's go. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Ref the District's March Madness QB edition. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner here on Ref the District, a part of the Believe Network, and we're going through the QB matchups to see who Washington's going to pick because nobody knows. Adam Peters has been very good at making sure people don't get a read on who he's going to take, so we wanted to see who was at there. Now, this matchup, JJ McCarthy, Drake Maye, the 3 versus the 2, these likely could be taken at number 2. This is our first matchup that we've had in our March Madness QB edition that is an actual, real kind of look at who could be taken at number 2. And of course, we're going to want your opinion on there. So make sure you get into the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube. Also, head out to our community page on YouTube and vote in the poll. Let your voice be heard there. And of course, if you're listening to this on your favorite audio platform, make sure that you leave us a rating and review, and also hit us up on our social media platforms to let us know what you think. It's at Ref the District. Let's get into this matchup here, Stoner. And again, these are realistically, these are 2 of the 3 quarterbacks that could be available or will be available, I think, at 2 for Adam Peters to take. This one, it's interesting because JJ McCarthy kind of came out late within the last couple months and people really started singing his praises. Drake Maye was kind of the reverse. He just was the expected number 2 pick. Jayden Daniels has this amazing Heisman winning season, and then he gets thrown into the mix. And then Drake Maye, with people watching more and more of his kind of last year at UNC, he starts to kind of fall down, a little bit, maybe a little bit of over an analysis with Drake Maye on that one, and same with JJ McCarthy, just on the reverse end.
I like both of these guys. I don't love either one of them, and I don't know where JJ McCarthy came from. Like you said, I mean, he was not even being mentioned in as a day 2 pick, let alone a day 1 pick, until the season kind of kept going and he led Michigan to a national championship, and then he started getting a little bit more buzz, and then his pro day and all this other stuff. Jim Harbaugh said that he's the best quarterback in the class. Kind of expected for your head coach to say that. But what else would he say? But I have liked what I've seen when I have kind of studied him and gotten into it a little bit. But you know what I see when I watch him? I see a quarterback. I see a guy. I see a guy who's going to probably play 15 years in the NFL. Not all of them as a starter, though. I feel like he is. I don't think he's a game changer. I think he's a pretty darn good quarterback. I'm trying to think of who I would compare him to, not in his talent and his abilities, but kind of in how their NFL career is going to progress. But it might be a guy like
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton is not bad. That's a great one.
We need big neon sign here. This is not a player comparison because I'm going to do something similar with Drake Maye here.
Okay.
Because you're right. When with JJ McCarthy, to me, I feel like his floor is just pretty good, right? Like it's just like he's just a good quarterback. But he's not like overly exciting. You're going to win some games, and you're going to, but he's not really going to win you games, right? Maybe a Ryan Tannehill is another one where it's just like, yeah, this guy can throw the ball and he can help, move things along. I know a lot of people see JJ McCarthy as a system quarterback because of that. Now, when he's on point and he can throw up and down the field, and he reads through progressions fairly well. He gets stuck on that first progression sometimes, but that's something that can get coached out. This is a very young kid. Both of these this is interesting. Our 1-4 matchup was the seasoned college quarterbacks. Here are 2-3 are the 2 young guys. And so both of these can get a lot of their things can be coached out of them. But with JJ McCarthy, if 10 is like your franchise altering QB, your all pro type QB, I think JJ McCarthy's less than that, right? Like his ceiling is like an 8. He is a Brock Purdy-esque type. And that's a very lazy analysis. I'm not trying to say he is Brock Purdy, but what I'm saying is the way people talk about Brock Purdy being a system QB, about a game manager, that's the way when you're watching JJ McCarthy, kind of how his game feels. He doesn't take over games himself, but he plays well within the system and he does well to not lose you games. And he's a winner. He is an absolute winner. This guy is a big time gamer. I was listening to District Divided, great group of guys out there. K Dot loves himself some JJ McCarthy, and he was going over some stories I hadn't heard about JJ McCarthy, about how JJ was spurned by Ohio State, so he sought out Michigan and then never loses to Ohio State. He talked about how this is a guy who in high school was geared so towards winning the championship that he studies and he does things. It sounds like JJ McCarthy is going to be winning over a lot of people in those meetings, in the one-on-ones, because he is going to be able to really talk it up. So guy's a gamer, and I do like what I see from JJ McCarthy. I just also have to somewhat agree with you that I just don't know that his ceiling is as high as that of Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels. And now the question becomes, Stoner, do you draft the guy who you think could be anywhere from we'll say a 5 to an 8, who you're almost guaranteed to have a 5 through an 8? Or are you going to draft the guy who could be a 1 or a 10?
That's a good question. I think you have to take that risk, and you have to go and get a guy who has that higher ceiling. And you can't kind of just take that no risk, sort of just hope the guy doesn't lose you games and doesn't necessarily win you games. I think Andy Dalton is a fantastic comparison. Andy Dalton was fine. Andy Dalton was a franchise quarterback for 6 or 7 years with Cincinnati, and now he's kind of being a bridge guy going around. That's a great comparison for JJ McCarthy. I think he would be somebody like that. Teddy Bridgewater might be another one that fit. Tyrod Taylor. He's a guy that can start, and some franchises might make you their guy for a while, and then they'll kind of see your limitations and go get somebody better. But yeah, I want to go for a guy who has that higher upside. When you have the number 2 pick, when you have the selection of the world in front of you, other than Caleb Williams, you've got all of these people, the chance to be your selection. You can't play it safe. You can't just say, maybe I'll take a guy who could be an Andy Dalton. Well, how about I take a guy who could be don't hate me for this, a Patrick Mahomes, who could be a game changer, a franchise builder, a Super Bowl contender year after year. I don't know that JJ McCarthy's that guy. Could eat my words later on, but from what I've seen, I haven't seen that type of player.
Yeah, I the feeling with him, right? When you're watching games, is you want the QB to kind of pop. And there's been moments I think JJ McCarthy's popped, but that's definitely been one of the more problematic things with watching games from him is there's a very limited sample size. He's only got the 2 years as a starter. And unlike Drake Maye, who similarly only has 2 years as a starter, JJ McCarthy's not slinging the ball all that often. They have a game against Penn State. I think he threw the ball 10 times. So you don't get to see a lot of those repetitions. So there's a lot more unknown. JJ McCarthy really could be, get up to a 10. I do think he has a lot of the intangibles. I think he has a lot of the tangibles. But when you're watching his stuff, you don't necessarily see it. Now, on Drake Maye, you see a lot of wow throws. You see some really exciting things. You see some really dumb things as well. So this is Drake Maye's kind of that guy who he really could be, again, not player comparison, flashing neon sign here, not a Josh Allen or Josh Herbert, which a lot of people are making those comparisons to. But he could be that kind of guy who can take over games and is exciting and a great passer and also a threat to just move the ball down the field. But he can also be a Sam Darnold. He can also be, Danny Dimes out in the New York Giants, right? Daniel Jones, where he just doesn't pan out. He's just not all that good. And there's some risk reward there. And you're at two, and you're right. Maybe you do want to, and you bet on yourself a little bit here, right? You're betting on the coaching staff. You're betting on who you've put in place to kind of coach these young guys up to be the best QB. So I can understand wanting to go after the, guy who could be a 10. I'm really concerned about that floor, though. He really could never fix some of these issues and the inconsistencies that he has, especially when you start watching some of the games and stuff, and you start to see those inconsistencies are brought on by not just mechanical things, but also mental things, right? With Drake Maye, sometimes it's a processing issue. And that's one of those things that doesn't necessarily improve over the time, right? There's QBs that have processing and there's QBs who don't have processing. And that is one of the most important traits in getting to that next level as a QB, because he can make the throws and he can run and he's athletic and he's a big guy, right? He's the biggest of the final four QBs that we're looking at and in terms of mobility as well. So there's a lot of excitement when it comes to Drake Maye, but that risk is real. It is very real.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest issue with Drake Maye is what you said, is that inconsistency. He'll go down there and he'll throw an absolute dart to his second read where he throws a guy open, and you'll be like, okay, he's a franchise quarterback. And then the very next play, he'll overthrow a guy by like 4 yards who was wide open, and he was not, he was the first read, and you're just like, what's going on in there? Not only what's going on in there, but like you said, what's going on with his feet? What's going on with his arm angles and all this? It's very, very inconsistent. No doubt the talent's there. And again, as you said, neon sign, not comparing the skill set, but I look at him as a Jameis Winston type. He's the guy who's going to throw you 30 touchdowns, but's going to throw you 30 interceptions as well in a single season. And then the team's going to say, can't have that. We can't have that 30 interceptions in a season in your third or fourth year in the NFL. So that's my concern with Drake Maye. The more I look into him, the more I don't like him. He's got all the talent. You laid it out. He's got all the physical ability in the world out there. There's no doubt about that. And he's had some impressive games against top-level competition. I don't like him. I'm off the Drake Maye anywhere near the number 2 pick. And in fact, in this matchup, Nathan, I'm taking JJ McCarthy.
Oh my goodness. I thought we were going to have a little controversy here. As I'm kind of leaning that way. I know we talked about wanting that explosive. When you're looking at a QB, yes, you want that 10. And I'm not saying JJ can't be a 10. I'm just saying that from what I've looked at, he's got the tool set, but we've just never seen it, right? So there's a little bit more hope there. You've seen Drake Maye make those amazing throws and be that amazing player. But one of the things that you need your NFL QB to do is take the layup, right? Make those easy throws. And Drake Maye has a beautiful, beautiful deep ball, and he can hit those he can hit those wide receivers in stride down the middle and all this other stuff. And he's, he very prototypical type, QB and his size and everything. But when you're watching, he doesn't always make those easy throws. JJ McCarthy, again, playing well within a system, making those easy throws. That's something you need at the NFL level. It's great to have that pretty deep ball. Sam Howell had a pretty deep ball, but that's only so much you can do when it comes to the NFL and being able to, make that happen and make that something useful. And that's where I think Drake Maye, for me, tends to fall off a little bit, is he's not consistent enough on taking the layup.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. But then the question is, I've already given you my answer, Nathan. What are you willing to take a chance on Drake Maye in this matchup? I'm not saying number 2 yet overall. I'm just saying in this matchup of Maye versus McCarthy, are you willing to bypass the potential ceiling of Drake Maye so that you can have the consistency of a JJ McCarthy again in this matchup?
Well, according to Bet Online, right now, Drake Maye has equal odds to be taken at 2 as Jayden Daniels. JJ McCarthy, I think, at plus 400 odds. Now, you might want to check me on that, and you can do so by heading over to Bet Online using the code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to get yourself a 50% welcome bonus. And you can make your own wager on this or March Madness or baseball. NHL hockey is coming up to the playoffs. NBA actions going to the playoffs as well. All that's right at your fingertips with Bet Online. Again, use the code BLEAV to get yourself a 50% welcome bonus. Bet Online, where the game starts. And that was my way to kind of jerk my answer just a little bit, because JJ has been probably my guy for the last 3 to 4 weeks, where I've been starting to look more and more into it. And I do wonder how much of this is that recency bias that we go through. So I had to start going back over and looking through the May stuff that we had looked at early on, and then kind of seeing some of the, the more recent stuff and seeing why some people are turning off on May. And I do have some serious concerns with Drake Maye as a QB, which is why I also am going to go JJ McCarthy, because I want that consistency, and I've seen a lot more consistency, and I'm not ignoring JJ's potential to continue climbing. Because like I said, there's a lot of intangibles with both these two to like, but with JJ McCarthy, I just feel like there's another step for him to be making. Right? Like he's consistent right now. You haven't really had to rely on him as a QB, but there's that step in him. With Drake Maye, yes, we're going to see those exciting throws, and yes, we're going to see some of that, but I worry more about his ability to put that together consistently than I do about JJ never reaching a 10 on the QB scale.
The beauty of this is that you and I only account for 2 votes out of the thousands that will eventually come in, and so we could totally get outvoted. But right here on this show, you and I both are JJ McCarthy over Drake Maye. That doesn't mean that that's who we want at number 2. That just means in this matchup, we both taken. I'm surprised you went with JJ McCarthy. I know you're surprised I went with JJ.
I'm very surprised. Yeah. I've been talking up JJ again for like the last month on our Wednesday show, which is where we're going to finish up this discussion. You can join us live 7:30 Eastern right on our YouTube channel. Join the conversation. We're going to finish this conversation up, but I've been talking him up on the flagship show. I've been kind of telling people JJ is, don't, buy in, start buying into the smoke about JJ being picked at 2, because there's some real NFL QB talent there, which I had dismissed early on. I thought this guy, that Michigan didn't use him, so he must not be a good QB.
Yeah.
I think he's a good QB.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's a great QB, but I think he's a good QB. And somebody's taking him top 10. Somebody is going to take JJ McCarthy top 10. It might be, my prediction actually is, for the first time in NFL history, QB is going 1, 2, 3, 4. Someone's moving up to that 4 spot to get JJ McCarthy. Somebody's going to move past somebody. Like Minnesota's going to move past somebody, or Denver's going to move past somebody, or the Raiders are going to move, to get to that 4 spot to make sure that they get their guy. So I think he's going top 10, 100%.
Well, we don't know who's being taken at 2, but you can help us. As Stoner mentioned, you get a voice in here. Comment on this video on YouTube, or if you're listening to this on audio, make sure you head over to our YouTube community page and you can vote in the poll and have your voice heard. We'll be cleaning it up on Wednesday's show. See if you can convince us maybe Drake Maye really is the truth. And we'll go up against our 1-4 matchup, Jayden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., having already been posted. If you haven't checked that one out already, make sure you do here for our March Madness QB edition here on Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner here, a part of the Believe Network, brought to you by Bet Online. And until next time,
shocking results.
Be a fan.